Hello guys, so today we're going to talk about Acheron versus Jingliu, right? Which one should you pull as your DPS, right? If you're free to play like me, I'm a low spender. I just buy like supply pass, but that's it. But if you're free to play or a low spender like me, you probably have only one choices, right? For either Acheron or Jingliu. And here in this video, I'll let you know which one should you pull for. Okay, let's get started. So first, we're gonna talk about Acheron. So first of all, Acheron doesn't care about elements. So you can beat up any enemies without actually paying attention to their weakness, right? But instead, now you need to pay attention for their minions and if they can deal debuffs to themselves or not. Because that will help a lot with helping Acheron to gain a lot of stacks for her ultimate and then uses her ultimate as like the most damage she can deal, right? Um, and then Acheron also provides you really flexible kind of play style in a way that if you use Acheron as DPS. And then Acheron also kills the mobs instantly, which is like really OP, and I don't think that any DPS will have that technique in the future. Not gonna lie to you. Um, that is so good, even if you're using Acheron for farming simulated universe, or you want to farm like the Outworld where you hunt treasure chests. That also works as well. Next, Acheron damage potential is insane because she's not limited to like 3 enemies or 4 enemies, right? But all enemies. So you doesn't really care about how many enemies you're fighting if you're using Acheron. You're just gonna attack everybody with just her ult. So that is one of the things that makes Acheron really good because not just like she deal just fine with like one target enemy, but on multiple enemies she doesn't care as well. So she still performs just fine without caring about the amount of the enemies, right? And that is one of the pros of Acheron as well. But in among those pros that Acheron can gives you, she also has the limitation, of course. For becoming that OP, she'll rely on Nihility's party, right? So if you're pulling for E0 Acheron, you need Acheron and 2 Nihilities to maximize her damage, right? Um, this is also one of the probably limitation of Acheron in a way that you can deal more damage, but you also limited to like giving her 2 other Nihilitist party. But depends on the percentage as well, like the damage increase. You also probably can use 1 Nihility and 1 huge damage buffer, probably like Runway or Sparkle, but that will also need some, some math, some calculations where you have to make sure that the harmony actually provides more benefit than putting like 2 Nihilities on the Acheron itself. Not to mention, Nihilities also help with um, the stack that Acheron needs for ultimate because most of her damage comes from ultimate, right? So it depends on how fast you get Acheron to use ultimate, and that will be your insane amount of damage potential with Acheron. Okay. Now we're gonna go talk about Jingliu. So what's the pros of having Jingliu, right? First of all, a simple mechanic, like really simple, really skill point efficient as well. Like if you're starting the battle with her technique and then you use one skill, you are transform to spectral transmigration, right? And then when you attack, you actually don't consume any skill point in that state, which is insane. And then, not to mention, you actually do blast damage as well, which is like 3 targets. And unfortunately, that's not as insane as Acheron's ultimate. But again, the skill itself, for not consuming a skill point and still deal insane amount of damage, makes Jingliu actually, in a way, better in that sense, right? And then Jingliu also can save your ass sometimes. Like when you're starting the battle with Jingliu's technique, you can freeze the enemies, So you literally have like free one turn of the enemies. So that's also one thing that Jingliu actually can provide for your team. Not just that, because Jingliu is really skill point efficient, you could also put like hyper carry team actually, right? So where most of the time the buffs are using skills or ultimates, where if it's using skill like Tingyun or Bronya, they actually use skill points, right? So for Jingliu not using skill points for a certain amount of turns, that actually helps for your team as well. And with that, we can say that Jingliu actually have better flexibility in terms of party members. So you can put Jingliu, one ability, one harmony, one sustain, or even put like 2 harmonies, one ability at some point, like if you can burst them down. So the potential of Jingliu's party is more flexible rather than Acheron in that way. So yeah, I think that's one of the pros of Jingliu if you actually compare them side by side. And then Jingliu doesn't really rely on debuff amount, right? So Jingliu can just deal damage just fine without really relying on the debuffs. Or let's say minimal debuffs, right? So for Jingliu, you probably just need like defense decrease, and that's it, right? You don't really need anything else to make Jingliu deals more damage, unless it's like Aventurin's ult, right, where it can gives like debuff to increase your crit damage. But other than that, I don't see like why Jingliu is not as good as Acheron in terms of like she's not really relying on amount of debuffs that probably the enemy provides or your team provides, right? So that's one pro of Jingliu if compared to Acheron. So with these points that I mentioned previously with Acheron and Jingliu, which one should you pull, right? So in my honest opinion, I'm not biased. I know I love Acheron, but I love Jingliu as well. I have my own Jingliu, but but again, in my honest opinion, guys, if you have to choose one, I will recommend you to go Acheron. Why Acheron? Because the flexibility of any enemies that you can hit actually helps you out with a lot of things, right? Um, I know that it limits you from using Tingyun with Acheron as well, because she doesn't really use energy. But again, we can inflict a lot of debuffs. At some point, like at certain enemies, even like with Acheron, you actually have possibility to use ult on the first turn, which is insane, right? I know. But probably not the first turn, probably in like 2 or 3 turns where you actually can kill enemies like the bomber or the dogs that deals bleed and such, right? So that is where you actually can get possibly one turn ultimate, whereas Jingliu really relies on the energy. I mean, it helps with like if you use something like Huo Huo or Tingyun as well, but again, it's a different matter in this case. Acheron also helps you a lot. If you questioning like either Acheron or Jingliu, I suppose you don't have that many DPS, right? That means Acheron obviously can help you to at least save a slot where your other DPS is not as good. In that sense, like if you're doing MOC, right? Let's say if you have Dunning Ill, it's imaginary, right? And then the other party is actually like, let's say weak to fire or wind instead, but you don't really care. You just put Acheron there and then you're good to go, right? So also the technique, like it's, I don't know, man. It's so OP that I'm speechless. Like there's no reason for you to skipping this if you have the chance to grab this Acheron, right? That is why I think it's much better if you are asking which one should I go for? Should I go for Jingliu or should I go for Acheron? I would say you go for Acheron. All right, but no matter what, what's going to happen, like what are you going to pull doesn't matter. You know your account best, right? And then I only have one thing for you to remember as well. No matter which one you're going to pull, they're both amazing. And if you're pulling either of this one, either Acheron or Jingliu, make sure that you pull them with their signature light cone, because their signature light cone matters a lot, right? So make sure that if you're pulling for Acheron, take her signature light cone. If you're going for Jingliu, take her signature light cone. Do not skip them if you can. I know it's not that easy. I know I'm saving a lot as well, but hopefully we all blessed with RNG God. We can get whatever we want with their LC sign, okay? Because the LC sign gonna boost your damage and the potential that you can get from that certain characters. All right, I think hopefully how I tell this to you helps you to decide which one you're going to go. If at the end of the day you're actually not pulling for Acheron and go for Jingliu instead, I I won't be I won't be mad. Like Jingliu is still one of the best DPS we get so far, and I don't see her getting power crap anytime soon. But again, that's it for today. Hopefully this video helps you to decide which one you are going for, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye bye.